business is over 100 years. We're not here for the 100-meter sprint. We can't be. We have to look after.
So he told me, you do it now, you push the company right to the top. Can you do it or not? I say, I will do it. You have to see that any improvement is there or not.
Do you know who he is? He said, he is the king of cloves. Sabr and shukur. You need to persevere. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ahlan wa sahla, આ podcast series Bottomline Equation ના 20th episode ઉપર. અને આજનું podcast comes with a twist because આ પહેલું એવું podcast હશે જેનામાં આપણે બે guest છે simultaneously એક પછી એક વાત કરશું. આજે આપણે સિંગાપોર based business નોમાનભાઈ એન્ડ સન્સના શેખ મોઇઝ ભાઈ અને શેખ હુઝૈફા ભાઈ से વાત કરશું. અને આ બંને એમ શેર કરશે આ પોડકાસ્ટના અંદર કે કેવી રીતને આ જનરેશનલ બિઝનેસ હજીન લગ સસ્ટેન થયું છે, કેવી રીતને આ લોકોએ સ્પાઇસને આ માર્કેટના અંદર ઘણા એવા સ્પાઇસીસ છે આ માર્કેટમાં ઇન્ટ્રોડ્યુસ કીધું, સ્કેલ કીધું, ડાયવર્સિફાઈ કીધું અલગ અલગ કન્ટ્રીઝના અંદર, અને કેવી રીતને હવે નેક્સ્ટ જનરેશન બિઝનેસમાં આવીને આ બિઝનેસને હજી ડાયવર્સિફાઈ કરી રહી છે. આપણે આજે આ પોડકાસ્ટમાં એમ જાણવા મળશે કે કેવી રીતને એક જનરેશનલ બિઝનેસને over the period of generations values ને સસ્ટેન કરવું ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ છે. અને લાસ્ટલી આપણે એમ સમજશું કે એક બિઝનેસ અને એક ઓન્ટરપ્રિન્યોર વાસ્તે પર્સનલ ગ્રોથ એન્ડ પ્રોફેશનલ ગ્રોથ બંને કેટલા ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ છે. સો વિદાઉટ ફર્ધર અડુ આપણે આ પોડકાસ્ટના અંદર ડાઇવ ઇન કરીએ અને એઝ આઈ ઓલવેઝ રિક્વેસ્ટ વોચ ઇટ ટિલ ધ એન્ડ. થેન્ક યુ.
Ahlan wa sahlan ya sab. Welcome to the Bottomline Equation Podcast. પહેલામાં પહેલું ડિસ્ક્લેમર કે આપ સેકન્ડ યંગેસ્ટ ગેસ્ટ છો આ પોડકાસ્ટમાં. યંગેસ્ટ જે અમે વી હોસ્ટેડ ઇટ વોઝ 92 years અને આઈ થિંક આપ એઝ આઈ ગોટ ટુ નો કે આપ 90 years old છો. સો that way you become the second youngest guest of this podcast. ને સાહેબ આપણે ડિરેક્ટલી જમ્પ ઇન કરીએ પોડકાસ્ટના અંદર. અને પહેલું સવાલ મારું એમ હશે કે આપણે બિઝનેસની વાત કરીએ કે એના આસ્પેક્ટ્સની વાત કરીએ એના પહેલાં આપનું એજ્યુકેશનલ બેકગ્રાઉન્ડ શું હતું?
My education background was in Singapore, in the government school.
જી.
Right? Then the Japanese came and attacked Singapore. So all the education was disrupted. Then after the Japanese left, continue my secondary education up to matric. After that, my father sent me to Australia. I did my matriculation in Australia, get 2 distinction.
બરાબર છે. અરે એકદમ બ્રીફમાં અગર આપ મને કહી શકતો હોય કે નોમાનભાઈ એન્ડ સન્સ શું કરે છે એઝ અ કંપની?
Okay, Nomanbhoy and Sons, the spices.
જી.
Most spices are being done by Nomanbhoy and Sons, which started with my grandfather in 1914. Right, most of the spices, he used to work in a spice company. After that, he left the spice company and started his own in 1914. So all the spices we used to buy and sell. And later on, when I joined the company, I said we must export the spices. There's no point in doing in Singapore. There's not much future. So we started exporting spices to America, Europe, and most of them went to India. Like clothes and everything. Very good buyer, India. From that we developed our business, and then my son, Hanif, joined. He started doing his spice business, which was going on smoothly. Then he started on the bunkering system. The bunkering is oil for the ships that come to Singapore. That one also went quite well. Up to today is going on.
જી. મૂવિંગ ઓન ટુ ધ નેક્સ્ટ પાર્ટ, જેમ જેમ આપ શેર કરતા હતા કે આપવાનું આપનું એકદમ ટાવરિંગ પ્રેઝન્સ હતું આપની લાઈફમાં. સો જ્યારે આપ બિઝનેસમાં આવ્યા, વોટ વોઝ ઇટ લાઈક કે આપને એના શૂઝમાં સ્ટેપ ઇન કરવું છે અને હવે આગળ લઈ જવું છે બિઝનેસ?
So when my father stepped back, he said he's tired of business. So he told me, you do it now, you push the company right to the top. Can you do it or not? I say, I will do it. You have to see whether any improvement is there or not. Right? Anyone can talk big and near no result. So I started pushing and pushing. I started to make friends with the people in Singapore, mainly the Chinese, because they used to control all the finance, money. We had to take money from them. And we continued doing the business. Then came the bunkering system. There also, the figures were very big, very huge. Sometimes we cannot meet. So we tell the buyers, you do half now, half after you pay me the money. So they all then also they agree. I say, how can you agree? You don't even know me, who I am. I may take your money and say goodbye to you. He said, no, Pete, sure, your name is very good. Your company's name is very good. Therefore, we have to trust you 100%.
બરાબર.
Hmm?
બરાબર. હવે નેક્સ્ટ જનરેશન આવે છે બિઝનેસના અંદર, તો બટ એલા પહેલાં પણ મારો એમ આપસે સમજવું છે. આપે એમ શેર કીધું આપણે પોડકાસ્ટના પહેલાં જ્યારે આપણે વાત કરતા હતા, દેર હેન્ડશેકની વેલ્યુ વધારે છે દેન રિટર્ન કોન્ટ્રાક્ટ. ઓફકોર્સ એની જે લીગાલિટી છે એ તો છે જ, બટ એ ચીજ મને એકદમ ઘણી ફાઇન લાગી જે આપણે અદા કીધી. તો એના પર આપ થોડું શેર કરશો?
Okay, now when we buy someone from some second party, they always make a contract. Contract, sometimes their contract goes to 5 sheet, 10 sheet. I say, what is all this rubbish? It's sheer rubbish. If you trust me, you shake hand and you give me the goods and I pay you the money. At the end of the story, these are wasting people. Right? So at first, they could not digest. Suppose we give you the thing and you don't pay, what happens? I say that portion hasn't come and I don't think it will ever come in my time. And I've trained my children, everyone, never to cheat people. People will try to cheat us. In the end, they will suffer. Because cheating people, God is all watching. So I'm bringing God inside now. Right? So you see, after many times, when you all shake hand, they didn't even want the paper. They threw away all the thing. They said, just shake hand. You sell me so much worth of goods, I'll pay you, and finish here on the story.
બરાબર.
Sometimes, especially the newcomers come from Europe, the Dutch and the British, they are very much on the paper. They don't believe in shake hand.
બરાબર. અને એવી કેવી વેલ્યુઝ હતી મેં સાહેબ જે આપને પસંદ થઈ અને આપ ઇન્શ્યોર કરી રહ્યા છો કે એ તો નેક્સ્ટ જનરેશનનું પસંદ હોવું જો?
That is mainly the contracts. We try to avoid contracts, try to do shake hand and sign. Now, a company from Rotterdam wants to buy coffee, right? So how to shake hand? We can't shake hand because of the distance and all that. So they will send a man over and come to Singapore and come to our office and we talk and show them the samples. If they agree, okay, take. Without any contract, we just shake hand because they trusted us.
રાઈટ. ધમ એ મજા આવી આપનું આખું બેકગ્રાઉન્ડ, આપની પર્સનલ લાઈફ, આપનો પ્રોફેશનલ લાઈફ સમજવામાં. હવે શેખ હુઝૈફાભાઈ વિલ જોઈન અસ આ પોડકાસ્ટના નેક્સ્ટ સેગમેન્ટમાં અને હી વિલ ટેક અસ ફોરવર્ડ કે કેમ એ જે વેલ્યુઝ આપસે લર્ન કીધા છે હવે એ કેમ પાસ ઓન કરી રહ્યા છે. તો શુક્રન, ઇટ વોઝ ગ્લેડ હેવિંગ યુ હિયર. ઘણી મજા આવી વાત કરી. Ahmed Salah, Huzaifa to the Bottomline Equation Podcast. Na apna abba Sheikh Moiz Bhai ઘણું ફાઇન બેકગ્રાઉન્ડ આપું એના પર્સનલ લાઈફના બારામાં કોન્ટેક્સ્ટ આપું બિઝનેસના બારામાં અને હવે કોન્વર્ઝેશનને આપના સાથે હવે આપણે આગળ લઈ જઈશું. આપ પહેલી વખતે આપણે એવું ફોર્મેટ કરી રહ્યા છે. વી હેવ નેવર ટ્રાઈડ ડુઈંગ ઇટ. વી આર ઓલ્સો લર્નિંગ. લાસ્ટ ટાઈમ અમે એક પોડકાસ્ટ કીધેલું, સો વી ગોટ અ લોટ ઓફ ફીડબેક દેટ હાઉ અબાઉટ બે જનરેશન્સના કોન્ટેક્સ્ટ યા બે જનરેશનના થોટ્સ એક પોડકાસ્ટમાં હોય. We said, okay, let's try that. So that way, you're the first one we are trying with. હવે આપ જે વખતે આપણે બિઝનેસનું કોન્ટેક્ટ સુનીએ એના પહેલાં થોડું આપના પર્સનલ લાઈફને અમે સમજવાની કોશિશ કરીએ કે બિફોર યુ કેમ ઇન ટુ ધ બિઝનેસ how did your personal background look like?
जी हाँ पहले शुक्रिया for having me on the podcast. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity.
Pleasure.
Yeah, we're quite a small company, so it's quite a privilege to be here.
Modest.
No, it's more or less dua. We are small. My education beddu Singapore ma tu. I grew up in Singapore. Fourth generation chu Singapore ma. My great grandfather had come here first, and for university I had gone to America.
Ji.
A place called Claremont McKenna College, California market. I was there for 3 years, did a degree in economics. Pachin me pacho Singapore aaya, family business ma join theo. But to put in a little context, ke when you're part of a family business, so from day one, એ લોકો ઇન્સ્ટિલ કરે છે
જી
that the business is part of your life.
જી
તો એમ મારા દાદીમાં became very instrumental in pushing me towards joining the business
બરાબર.
from a very very young age.
સોરી ટુ ઇન્ટરપ્ટ બટ આપણે એક વાત કીધું જે આપણે પહેલાં શેર કીધું જે કોન્ટેક્સ્ટ કે આપણે એમ ક્વેશ્ચનમાં છે કીધેલું દેટ who do you think જે મોસ્ટ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ છે બિઝનેસ અંદર એ કોન્ટેક્સ્ટથી આપ શેર કરશો?
Ha, sure. In a Chinese empire,
જી
the question I asked, who is the most powerful person
જી
in the empire?
બરાબર.
It is not the emperor. It is the empress dowager. The empress dowager, she has the most influence on the empire.
જી
तो अपनी family business and family multi-generational family भी होय, तो who is the most powerful person in the family? Usually the wife
જી
of the patriarch. In our case, Daddy Ma.
જી
So she is very instrumental in encouraging all the time for us to join the business.
બરાબર.
For my children also, my mother was quite instrumental in making sure that they took some interest in the business.
જી
Ji. Now to go back a little bit, ours was it's a bricks and mortar business. Nothing ekdam savvy, not like what you have today in the internet and artificial intelligence, and it's very, but it has a very rich heritage.
જી
It was the reason why Singapore was founded. We are in the spice trade. The business, my great grandfather came in Singapore in the early 1890s. Was working for a company. Then we set up our own businesses in 1914. ये ते वक्त primarily अपने माल यहाँ से लेता था from the region, and then we would export to India. That was the main flow of the risk because the spices were sought out here. So to take it back, the British wanted to rival the Dutch, so they founded the British East Indies and was the spice trade. So then when my grandfather came into the business, it was also centered from all the spices from the region. So we would be very strong in black pepper, white pepper, cinnamon, cloves, just to name a few of the spices. So tewakat apne we used to buy from traders. We used to bring them to Singapore. Singapore was the main entrepot trade. Singapore continues to remain a trading hub, but things have changed. And we would warehouse all the spices in Singapore and then re-export the spices all over the world. But that was the main business. And during my Dada's time also, it was mainly towards India, China, the flow back and forth, and then towards South Asia, Pakistan, mainly these sort of areas. And Bawaji joined the business. And that time, the whole business became more and more international. So we would not only be sourcing spices from here, from this region, but also globally. But everything would still come back into Singapore. We would warehouse it in Singapore, and then we would reship all the goods from Singapore. We would either reprocess them, repack them, and reship all the cargo out of Singapore. That was the thrust of the business in the so-called early years. Bawaji was primarily involved in the clove business, and he used to do a substantial trade. His forte was cloves, and he used to buy cloves from Madagascar, Zanzibar, Comoros, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and Brazil. And even up to the late 1970s and early 1980s, all the goods would come into Singapore again, and then we would sort of re-export the cargo. But when I joined the business in 1984, we had to adopt a different strategy because global trade was shifting. There was a lot of direct trade with information more easily available, information flow becoming very, very quick. So it was to bring the cargo into Singapore, and Singapore was also developing very fast. Costs were becoming very expensive. But more importantly, there was what is known as the rules of origination. The rules of origination state that, for example, if India supports a country in Africa, they automatically levy less taxes. And if Singapore is a developed country, Singapore has higher taxes. So if I buy cloves from Madagascar and ship it directly to India, tax rate is 0. But now if I bring it back to Singapore, warehouse it in Singapore and ship it back to India, it's 35% duty. So we had to reorganize our entire thought process. Then in the 1990s, what Bawaji decided to do in consultation with some ideas Manasak from me was that we shifted the entire business. We had two options. One, either to go towards the supermarkets, fight for shelf space with the major brands, or two, backward integrate. To go on the supermarket and fight for shelf space, capital was quite intensive those days. So we decided to go back to backward integrate because we were very strong in sourcing. Just to put you in context, my grandfather was the first person to bring Madagascar cloves into Singapore in 1935. 1935.
Wow.
So my grandfather was among the first pioneers to bring in Zanzibar cloves in the 1920s into Singapore. So sourcing was our forte. So we backward integrated. And then by backward integrating, we sort of either have relationships or we have offices, direct investments, or joint ventures in various countries, like in Madagascar, in Zanzibar, in Comoros, in Indonesia, in Vietnam, where we set up our own processing plants, and then we now re-export from there. But the base remains in Singapore. Yeah.
અને ક્લબ્સના સાથે સાથે નાવ બીજા કયા સ્પાઇસીસમાં આપણું બીટ કરો છો?
We do substantially in Ganu black pepper, kala miri ma કરીએ છીએ, સફેદ મિરી માં કરીએ છીએ, and we do cassia, we do cumin seeds, we do the whole range of spices. So we have basically presence in 50 countries globally.
50 countries.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we sort of helps to pay some of the bills, but this is okay.
And which happens to be the biggest hub for your exports in terms of consumption. Exports नहीं कहते हो, but biggest consumer of your spices?
Depends on the spice. It depends. Like black pepper and white pepper mainly to Europe,
जी
the USA.
जी
Cloves would be this part of the world, China, Indonesia, and India. Yeah, the main garam masala whenever they use, so that they consume very well. Right. So it just depends on the spice.
અને આપ લોકો majorly B2B side પર deal કરો છો, not directly consumer facing business?
Nah, never directly to the consumer. It's always never, very rarely to the retailer, but a lot of them are to the end users. So people like the food processors, people who create paste, people who create mixes, they all buy from us. Okay.
So હવે you know how did this તો જીવારે આપ આયા વિરસના અંદર were there any major transformations which took place? આપે another share કીધું કે you know you had two routes to take અને આપ બાવાજી સાથે બેસા અને this thing. But can you take us to a bit more technically that you know what was the post scenario look like?
Okay. The other reason which I did not emphasize, that's the trade cycle has changed.
जी
Like, when the Europeans and Americans and now even largely India, Japanese, all these clients who we have over the last few generations, certification has become very important. Traceability has become very important. Organic has become very important. So that was the main transformation that we faced, apart from the shift in the trade routes. We needed to go to the source. So if it's in Indonesia, we have a joint venture with a Sri Lankan company and an Indonesian company in coconut. So we produce our own coconut, so we can provide the entire certification and things like that when we ship. So when we buy clothes from, say, Madagascar, where we have lot of good relationships, so we're buying directly from the farmers, we know what we are getting, so we can provide the various certifications to all the various buyers, because some of them are very large industrial users of these spices, so they need to have all these protection clauses and things like that, but which I think Bawaji highlighted to you. So well, I don't know how much weight it carries, but anyway, it's a requirement. If you don't have it, you can't sell. So it was necessary. So this was the main transformation that has taken place, and because of this transformation, we had to create entire new systems globally, where we can get all these sort of documentation, and we have people on the ground who check the quality, ship the quality, that entire scenario change. Before, everything was come to Singapore, we check here, or ship. Now everything is shipped from origin. We go there, we check there, we either have our own operation or we have joint ventures.
બરાબર. સો આપે એક વર્ડ કીધું ટ્રેસેબિલિટી
જી
અને ડિરેક્ટ ફ્રોમ ઓરિજિન, અને હમણાં જ આપણે પોડકાસ્ટને પહેલાં વાત કરતા હતા કોફીનો.
કે
હવે અને બિકોઝ એક સબ્જેક્ટમાં આઈ એમ પેશનેટ અબાઉટ, આઈ નો લિટલ બિટ અબાઉટ ઇટ, કે ધી ઇમ્પોર્ટન્સ ઓફ સિંગલ ઓરિજિન, ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ ઓફ ટ્રેસેબિલિટી, દેટ કયા ફાર્મનું છે, કયું પિયરનું ક્રોપ છે, કયું વેરાઇટલ છે, how it was processed, how it was stored, you know, how did it reach me? And so એમ સ્પાઇસીસના અંદર પણ સિમિલર છે?
same.
Okay.
We also do a little bit of coffee. It's exactly the same. Spices also, we go all the way back, where they even want to know what kind of water is used
Ji.
for the spice. So apna vaste, many times when we discuss with the farmers, we create an entire ecosystem which becomes part of the company.
બરાબર.
Even though we don't directly own the farms, but we have people who tell them, no, you need to have this kind of water systems, you need to have this kind of ideas to improve, otherwise we are not able to give the traceability, because pesticide is the biggest issue
બરાબર.
in coffee and even in spice.
બરાબર.
But problems શું થાય છે કે because the farmers in Africa and all are poor, એ લોકોના પાસ પૈસા બી નથી to get the pesticide, but they use plastics and other things to store the raw material, and that's where the pesticide comes. They use nets to protect the birds from coming in. That has pesticide. So they don't understand. So it took us a long time to tell them, no, you can't use this, because finally when we found out the pesticide from these things, we had to re-educate them to change the entire thing.
અને થોડું digress, but to talk more technical આ સબ્જેક્ટના ઉપર અમે એક ફાર્મ ઓનર સાથે ઇન્ડિયાના અંદર વાત કરતા હતા કોફી.
जी
હવે and he happens to be the you know the only very known farm when it comes to coffees in India. He exports very big amount to US, Europe, etc. And he on the same lines વાત કરતા હતા that કેમ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ છે કે એનું જે yield છે એ જે ઇન્ડિયન ગવર્મેન્ટનું yield એવરેજ છે એનાથી 4 times કરે છે વધારે. And he like મેં કેવી રીતને રીડિફાઇન કીધું that I understood that it is the soil which is important. So he got on board એક ઓસ્ટ્રેલિયન એડવાઇઝર. એ હા આયા એના પાસેથી એને પેલા કોર્સ કીધું પછી એને હા બોલાયો. એ re-engineered the entire soil. He's like not even one drop of pesticide goes in my soil. It's all natural. And that natural fauna is what gives me the yield. And that natural fauna is what gives my coffee the flavor.
Correct.
So મેં એટલે આ આપણે વાત ભલે ટેકનિકલ કરી રહ્યા છે બટ આ આમના ઓડિયન્સ પાસે શું ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ છે દેટ ઘણી વખતે ઇટ કુડ બી ધ શોર્ટેસ્ટ ઓફ રાઉટ જે મને હેલ્પ કરી શકે છે પ્રોબ્લી. હી કુડ ઓલ્સો હેવ યુઝ ફર્ટિલાઇઝર લાઇક હાઉ ઇઝ અધર ફાર્મ્સ આર ડુઈંગ. પણ એ કીધું કે તમે આવો મારા રિજનમાં. એ ઇન્વાઇટ કીધું આપણે એને એટલે તમે મારા ફાર્મમાં જાઓ અને તમે હજી 5 ફાર્મમાં જાઓ તમને આઉટલુક સે સમજમાં આવી જશે કે મેં અને એનામાં શું ડિફરન્સ છે. એટલે મેં તમને કંઈ કહીશ નહીં ને તો તમે સમજી જશો કે ઓકે. તો having that level of control in business, a level of technical know-how in business always pays off. It's
this is very important.
yeah, and it took me 5 years to go through this entire process. It was very painstaking. It's like I went for it, and then now my generations will see the results.
Yeah, but the only downside is depends where you are doing the agriculture. Agriculture in India ma name karo, it's fine because you own the land.
બરાબર.
In many places you cannot own the land. It becomes a leasehold. And even if the laws are not stringent, if you invest so much, then it becomes a problem. You need to balance profit against yield. So finally, after all, no doubt profit is still what marks the success of a business. But we have sort of diversified from that a lot. Not so much profit, but more people. It is more important, like we just said, to invest in the people, to educate them, so that they become part of the company, directly or indirectly. How can you do that? You can help them with their medical, you can help them with their schools, you can help them with better water systems. All these things become very important. People sort of neglect all that. But when you look at the business, like in our case, the business is over 100 years. We're not here for the 100-meter sprint. We can't be. We have to look after, like what you say, for the marathon. So if you invest 5 years just to get the right shoe, then you can run for a long time. So it's very important to get the basic systems in order. And you should not take any shortcuts at that point in time. It's very painful at that time. Many people are not able to digest that part. Many businesses eventually collapse because they're not able to spend enough time to develop those systems in the initial stage. That's
I'll come to this part in the later part of conversation, the importance of systems, the importance of giving time. But where એક જે કલ્ચરલ આસ્પેક્ટ છે એ મેં ટચ અપોન કરવા માગું છું કેમ કે શહેરનાની નજર આપના બાવાજી પર છે, આપણા બિઝનેસ પર છે ઘણું. સો અને ઘણા બધા એનેક્ડોટ્સ આપણે શેર કરી. આઈ ડોન્ટ નો કેટલા બધા આપણે ટચ કરી શકશું કેમ કે દેર આર લોટ. બટ એવા કોઈ ઇન્સ્ટન્સીસ જે આપ શેર કરી શકો હમણાં જે એકદમ ટોપ ઓફ ધ માઇન્ડ છે. એમ તો સગલા જ હશે, આઈ એમ શ્યોર કે એ બી એવો કોઈ ઇન્સ્ટન્સ ના હોય શહેરના સાથે જે આપણે ના ટોપ ઓફ ધ માઇન્ડ જેવું હોય. બટ એવા સ્પેસિફિકલી જે આપને ખબર હોય આપના શેફ મોઇઝ ભાઈ સાથે, આપના બાવાજી સાથે બનાવે, આપે ફર્સ્ટ હેન્ડ એક્સપિરિયન્સ કીધા આપ શેર કરી શકો અમે.
okay, sure. એમ તો ઘણા છે. we are very very lucky. નાનાની બે દાઈની નજર બાવાજી પર છે. so we are quite lucky. So in Jiwari Sayyidina Muhammad Burhanuddin came to Singapore in 1997. Tewakat Bawaji used to do quite a substantial business of the clove trade. In the 1970s and 80s, basically the pricing of cloves was controlled by Bawaji. So it was sort of on a daily basis opened in Singapore, the day's price. So Sayyidina Muhammad Burhanuddin knew very well. We had a function. Jema bada dignitaries ne bada ata. Sayyidina Muhammad Burhanuddin sort of introduced Bawaji. Do you know who he is? He said he is the king of cloves. So Maulana's nazar was very.
So I think મને એવું લાગે છે કે મને પોડકાસ્ટ નો ટાઇટલ મળી ગયો છે પોડકાસ્ટ વિથ ધ કિંગ ઓફ ફ્લોઝ કોટ એન્ડ કોટ.
No, I think that will be too presumptuous. And I think Mullah says very much. Humility is very important. I don't think that's necessary.
तो अच्छा बट आप कहता था हमने के कई एक चाइनीज टीवी भी आ लाइन पर कई डॉक्यूमेंट्री
जी, जी।
टीवी छे सो व्हाट्स हैपनिंग ऑन द
That's I think the Chinese media has identified certain spices. I think it's black pepper, white pepper, and cloves. These are the main three spices that were traded very actively in Singapore since the late 1800s.
અને એનામાં એ લોકો પે આપનો સાથે
And they have showcased our company and our family and for the cloves part of it.
so it's not just the कि आपने बात करी रही थी the world also recognizes that
No. Mullah's dua. The world can recognize whatever they want. But without Mullah's dua, we can't do anything. Yeah.
અને સુરેશભાઈ આપ હજીન સો આપે instances share કીધા જે વારે there was a tough time your ship got stuck and then ये मैंने this
There were two instances. One, Sayyidina Muhammad Burhanuddin hata. We were doing kaju no gano motu vepar karta tha. And we were buying a lot of cashew nuts from Africa. Ne hame log ko India ship karta tha and Vietnam for processing. So we used to buy the raw nuts. So we were fairly large and we were buying a lot of those cashew nuts from Guinea-Bissau.
okay
We were buying, so again same, we had the similar setup where we used to buy directly from the farmers and they would deliver to our warehouse, and so all the cargo was paid for and was kept in the warehouse. We had close to 2,000 metric tons in the warehouse, and unfortunately civil war broke up. While our vessel was loading, the bombs were being blasted in the thing. So our vessel was the last vessel that was being loaded in Guinea-Bissau. And we loaded like 500 tons and there was still another 1,500 tons in the warehouse and we had to pull out the vessel. So we evacuated the ship and all the riot they all boarded the vessel and we took everyone to safety, which the nearest port was Banjul, Gambia.
okay
So we had all gone there and they discharged it. But we completely panicked because it's quite a lot of money and all our money. I thought that's the end of that. Finished. So, Bawaji, arrest to Mola. Waramwar, say, fikr na karo, don't worry, everything will be okay. It was amazing. After 9 months, I took a vessel from Dhaka, Senegal, and went into Guinea-Bissau with rice. And everything around our warehouse was destroyed, except ours. Can't be true. Mola's dua. We took
nothing
not one bag was lost. It's amazing. Mola's dua on Bawaji nazar, unbelievable. Immediately your faith is real. Even Mola says you have to do vapor, now you understand why you have to do vapor. Very important, because your faith gets renewed all the time. Similarly, Givare Sayyidina Mufaddal Saifuddin, Givare Paluma, there was an earthquake and a tsunami. We had substantial cargo in the port. The tidal wave came and destroyed the entire port. So I said, finish. God bows out. Mola, I call directly this time through the Italy. Mola Nabi kitu, fikr na karo, hifazat che, I said, I finished, but I saw all the containers floating away in the sea. I said, that's the end of that. Let's write it off. After 4 months, we went back. There had 6 containers in the port. It was closed. It was a bit expensive. Everything was intact.
पानी लागू ही नहीं.
Everything was intact. Unbelievable. Moiz Bhai, Saidna Mufaddal Sepudi, Akamolas, Moiz Bhai.
कया वायरस में से हैं?
Not too long ago, sir, Maulana had just come to Singapore, just after that. It was May 2019, 219 or 220 or something.
Okay.
It was just amazing. It was, nothing was disrupted.
बराबर.
Oh, yes.
अच्छा.
Yeah, Maula's dua. And you have faith, it works.
અને હવે થોડું શિફ્ટ આપણે કરીએ ગેર્સને અને આપ એક શેર કીધું કે દિવારે અરાઉન્ડ 1984 આપે સ્ટાર્ટ કીધું અને આપે એમ તો આખું બેકગ્રાઉન્ડ આપું કે કેમ સ્ટાર્ટ થયું સગલી ચીજો આપ શું કરતા હતા બટ આપે એક સ્પેસિફિક એનેક્ડોટ શેર કીધેલું દેટ અરાઉન્ડ ટ્રસ્ટ in you and then how you actually stepped in, what was your learning curve, based on that trust how quickly आपनी learning curve mature है and then you started delivering.
In 1984, I graduated from the US.
जी.
I came to Singapore in August. And I joined the business, as we mentioned earlier.
जी.
And I've always wanted to join the business, by choice or otherwise. But when I joined the business, Babuji took me to the banks, put my name on all the signatory, made me sign on all the accounts, took me to the lawyers, made me a director immediately, took me to the auditors and put all my signatories to all our companies. Then after 2 days, he gave me the key and told that I'm going away for a holiday with your mother to Europe. I said, what? They were handphone number, you can't call. But I said, okay, here's the key, I'm going. And in 2 weeks, I learned the business like you've never learned it before. Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is, he trusted the next generation. And he imbibed the value which is so dear to the family. Trust. I think Babaji spoke why the handshake is more important than the contract. So this is exactly where it fits. If you don't trust the next generation, then it becomes a problem. But still, I could have ruined the business. But he trusted.
So घना अपना community में generation business shape, which get passed down from first, second, third. Have you can tell with conviction because probably अपने हमने podcast में भी बात करी है तो okay, I talk to third generations at max, but like yours is what, fifth now?
The 5th generation is in the business.
In the business and
Akil and Ali.
100 plus years of legacy.
Yeah.
So आपने શું લાગે છે કે without being too technical about it on an onset, that this is what has helped us pass on those values from one generation to another. અને એક ચીજ આપી જે અમે trust ને touch upon કીધી છે.
Yeah.
Anything else you can touch upon?
I think the idea over here is to have the core values within the system. Whether it's trust, whether it's honesty, integrity, paying on time, very simple things. As Benjamin Franklin says, he who pays on time has the ability to pay, has the ability to raise an unlimited amount of credit. Most people forget that. These simple values where people and relationships matter more than the business. This is what has been passed now from one generation to the next generation. We all want to make profits.
Better.
But do we extract profits? Or do we make profits together with people? So in my case, when the next generation was coming in, Akil and Ali Asghar, from the age of 14 and 16, I've been taking them to Africa. Because here in Singapore, we have a lot of facilities and things like that, and they don't have as many in Africa in those days when they were 14 and 16. So they actually understood the business. Because when you go out on your own, we let them be, they manage their own finances, they do everything they want, they get their own idea. They come back. and then they try to implement those ideas into the business. Sometimes we have to curb, which is quite difficult to have 3 generations in the office. One has made everything, the other is me, and the one wants to do everything. So we should get sandwiched. But these are the things that is very important, at least for me, that for them to go back and then they must come back. They have to work outside and come back and work for the company. They get different ideas, they create different scenarios, they learn different disciplines, which is very important. I give you an example. Akil came back from his university and he worked and he said, Dad, no, we are buying here, and if we start our own office here, we can increase profit by so many percent. We're buying directly from the farmer, we're buying direct from the. I said, these people have been working not with your grandfather, but with your great-grandfather. But no, profit margin, you can improve. I said, absolutely right. Here's the plane ticket, go and meet everyone and come back. So I gave him a plane ticket, went to Indonesia, met all our suppliers, went to Vietnam, met all our suppliers, went to Madagascar, went to Zanzibar, went to Comoros. After 2 months, he came back. So how? What do you think? Shall we open office here? Dad, no. I said, why? They are more Nomanbhoy than we are. I said, yeah, it's a relationship, which not I have created. Your grandfather, your great-grandfather have created. And now you're going to work with their children. Why do you want to compete with them? Work with them.
So that was going to be my next question. Ke when the next generation goes out, Jim, of course, the exposure to media was not that significant. It's quite high. And then you're not just learning within the institution, but from the culture, from media, everything, right? So a ghanu influence hoy and pachi then when you get all of that back to the business, wild ideas, their wild thought process, and then of course when I'm not being heard, that also causes frustration. So in the generation business, balance. आप एक anecdote share की तो you said, okay, you think you'd do it, why don't you try and do it yourself? But એવું કઈ process या કઈ recipe છે that which other businesses can take from you and then say, okay, this makes sense. That okay, let me try and take this approach.
It's a dynamics more difficult because it varies from the type of business, the type of family, and the type of people who are involved in the business. So it's something you cannot. I wouldn't want to generalize it because it's quite risky. But we have a lot of problems also. I mean, I can't say that because there's the new generation wants to do a lot of things, but yet we have certain values and we need to maintain those values, both the family values as well as the religious values. A lot of things we cannot do. A lot of things that we want to do, but we have to do it in a different way. So it becomes very difficult to negotiate. So we always have these arguments. And say I give you a very simple thing. In business, one of the main things you need to learn is how to cut loss.
How to cut?
Loss.
Loss.
If you cannot cut loss, then it always becomes more of a problem. So now, recently we had some issues. Iran was getting bombed and indirectly we were doing the trade, so there was an issue. So I said, cut the loss. He said, don't cut the loss. Because these guys are good, they will pay us back. I said, what happens if they die? They won't. I said, okay, don't cut the loss. He was right. They paid every cent. So I was wrong. So I let him do it. But there was a bit of a friction. But yes. But then again, when you look at the market, you must learn cutting loss, as Bawaji has taught me, and his Bawaji before him has taught him. The first operation is always better than the last. We must cut. So very difficult to insist. Just simple value. When to cut the loss. Sometimes you can drag it, but sometimes. So like for example, Bawaji instilled in me, before you start the business, understand how much you can lose. Can you withstand the loss? If you can withstand the loss, do the business. If you can't withstand the loss, don't try to do the business. Because tomorrow you won't be able to manage if anything goes wrong. So it becomes conservative. And you restrict growth. Can't be helped.
Brilliant.
We have X amount of capital. So that's it.
आणि जेव्हा आपे जॉईन केले your strategy of taking by business ahead was to backward integrate. Now have next generation is coming in. Of course, businesses are evolving, markets are evolving, times are evolving. So, કેટલું important છે કે businessને always on the lookout of diversification with time generations, because legacies have just become obsolete when they did not evolve. We have examples of big houses like Kodak, Nokia, did not evolve with time, were the pioneers. So, how much that weight is always on your shoulder that, with times you have also got to evolve.
It's very important. We're always looking for new businesses, looking for new niches where we can work. So the new generation that has come in, I have to give all due respect to them. They are the ones who have taken us forward. They are the one who have painstakingly done all the documentation, all the various systems in place so that we can. So our suppliers have this, as we talk about sustainability and traceability, they need to do all this. So they have done that entire process, which costs years. And not only that, but we have to renew them every day. I don't have the patience. And if we speak to Babaji, he says, the same spice you've been eating for 5,000 years, what are you talking about? Makes no sense. But as the market has shifted, we have to evolve. So now we also evolve, and now we are looking at different sort of direction. Recently, we have moved into end product where we process clove leaf oil and clove stem oil. So the next generation has actually moved into that business, which is related. And they are now extracting oil and selling it to the various fragrant houses of the world, like Chanel and Cacharal and all these places in France mainly. So we are trying to grow, and we keep.
And does that next generation want to go the B2C route?
Yes, I think they will. They will at some point in time. But they know that our forte is sourcing. As much as we can do there and create more and more employment there, I think they will do it. But the money is in the B2C. But B2C comes with a lot of risk, especially in food.
Of course. Definitely, because it's and of course, we've seen the little time, but I'm sure that with the kind of media dominance, with the kind of exposure to external world that they've gone to, especially countries like Australia, you must be seeing the kind of value the directly customer can bring, and what the business can. And they know that it's your product ultimately, which is being used to create a certain end product.
Sure.
It's all the more.
I think it's something that they will, I hope they will eventually venture as we create different sort of systems and different sort of joint ventures. And I think it's very important. And then innovation, R&D becomes very important. And that is another area which we need to focus on as we rejuvenate or maybe diversify our businesses a little bit more. And we see how it goes. Potential is incredible. That's why I think one of the main ideas of Bola is to do business. Babaji always said, every day you open the door, there's a new story to be told. So, I mean, after a point, do you need, how many meals can you eat? 3 meals a day. Then there's no need to work. That's when the problems start. And you take a back seat. Now no need to work. Then the issues start to creep in, and that's where you made that point. How do you continue to, how to create the hunger for the next generation when they already have everything? But then to also educate them that it's not a free meal.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Especially for a parent, because you want to give the best for the child.
Yeah.
But yet, educate the child, it's not free.
Yeah. I think I don't remember which ruler was talking about it, but he shared in one of the speeches that the first generation is the most strong, the second and third and fourth. So that has always stuck with me, that
The Chinese have a saying: first generation makes the wealth, second generation preserves the wealth, the third generation squanders it. because he does not understand how the first generation and the second generation made the world.
Yes.
So it's very important. I think it's very important. We are quite lucky to have moved to the fifth. So let's hope we've broken that cycle. Time will tell.
હવે अपने towards the end segment में जाइए आपने एक बात touch upon की थी which is the time આ ચીઝને લાગુ to build Hava which is like 100 plus years અને આપણે એમ પણ કીધું કે generations you know with new generations coming and I'm not talking with respect to your business I'm saying overall हमना जनरल જોવા જઈએ તો overnight millionaire નો concept છે shortcut to success મને એકદમ ક્વિકલી કરી જાવું છે અને ચલો મેં કરવું બી ચાહું છું કોઈ ચીઝને but if it's not working let me quit, let me switch gears, let me try a new side gig, let me have a new side hustle and stuff like that. So since you've seen quite a bit of legacy and you've seen that kind of hard work which takes to reach a certain point and then again takes quite a bit tough time to sustain it there. Apso advice to everyone watching.
Indeed. I think the molakech, don't try to become a millionaire overnight. I think it's very, very important. It took us so years to get to where we are. So there are two main things over here. Sabr and shukur. You need to persevere even though you have a long-term business strategy. But you need to persevere. And every time you reach a milestone, you need to do shukr. So I believe in this concept where you do, every time you have a micro success, you must do shukr and appreciate the ni'mat that you have. Today I made so much. I could have done 10, I could have done another 100 tons. Not what I could have done another 100 tons, but what you have done today. So my great-grandfather always used to say, never compare with the person of what you don't have. Always compare to the person who does not have and you will always appreciate what you have. So it's very important to have that sabr all the time. And then most people don't have it. They want to become quick. And it's really unfortunate because the global climate and international climate is such where everybody wants to make money quick. And these success stories are highlighted very quickly. Within 2 years, this person has become a billionaire and within this, he's done cryptocurrency trading, he's done this, he's done that. But they don't realize that for every 1 or 2 successes, how many have failed? That is the main thing. Nobody talks about the failure. They all talk about the success. So everybody wants to replicate that success story. It's finally hard work and sweat. Without that, it's no point. Hard work and sweat. And you must understand the nemat. I don't know how to explain this, but I think Mola does it all the time. But what you have, shukr. Then next step. I mean, there will be up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So you have to persevere. You have to do sabr. Okay, that's always the ethos of Muharram. That's where values are trans. Maulana Hussain did not do what he did not do. He had to do what he had to do. Value. That's exactly what can't do means can't do, sorry. Then the next generation fights. I say, sorry boss, cannot. Can't do means can't do.
હવે આજે આપણે આખા આઉટલુકની વાત કરી in the entire podcast. I also want to understand that હવે personal growth કેટલું important છે while all of this is happening because as a entrepreneur when I'm in a particular system it's very easy for me to get lost in the routine. Okay, going to office at 10 a.m, coming back at 6 p.m, and then going to the same thing again and again and again and again. So of course I went outside, studied and did all of it, but then that stopped. And now of course business also teaches me something on the job, but is that enough? Yeah, do you think that it's more or along with it important છે કે હવે મેં personal growth માં પણ simultaneously
invest करूँ so that I bring that same value back to the business over a period of time.
Nah, this is more important. So every year we map out what kind of exhibitions we're going to participate. Just to give you an example. Why? Because you need to know new ideas. You need to know new trends. So they have to go and learn. Every time there's a new technology, you must learn. You must learn. If you don't learn, you get the person who is next to you who knows it very well, who can advise you. So it is very important that organic growth cannot stop. If that organic growth stops, the business unfortunately will come down. You cannot. It's the personal growth, as you put it, is very, very important.
Because this is I think our second podcast outside the Indian market, and lot of viewers watch it from the Indian market. So total insight because of Singapore much of it's been years. How much is the ease of doing business in this market?
Singapore ma ekdam easy છે sir. It's very easy to do business. It's very easy to set up businesses. I think you can do it in like 48 hours.
Is it?
You cannot do it in any part of the world. So આપનું biggest problem હમણાં છે is that when we go to these sort of countries, to change the mindset becomes extremely difficult. So for me to go to India and set up business today, it's very hard. Easier to go to Australia or New Zealand. But because we have been out of the system. And now to retrain, for that matter, even Africa and all these places where we need to, there's a whole different mindset. And it becomes quite difficult. But not to say that we can't or that we won't. Something that we need to do also, we do it. But it's more difficult.
And I'm sure घना लोगों पर यहाँ से भी जोर से जहना because when I look at places like Singapore, Australia, the professionals say.
जी.
And in the last very poor, I've spoken to a lot of professionals and was still in two minds. Should I make the switch? Should I not make the switch? Okay, I have a cushion of consistent salaries coming in. So, do I need to do that? I have a certain lifestyle. Would I have to let it go? Will I be able to do this? Because I've never done it. Neither of my previous generations have done it in this market. So, ये लोगों ने वास्ते बड़ी सो blueprint.
Singapore sub is not a good example. So we had so many businesses in Singapore. अपना जो original firms था Singapore लो, there were many companies. All as the generations came, everything dwindled.
Okay.
It became easier to become a professional.
Brothers.
Because the cost of doing business is very high.
Okay.
That is one of the main drawbacks in Singapore. Because of that, people always are in two minds. Shall I switch? Shall I not switch? As you said, lifestyle, but the problem is the cost of operation is very high. So if the same person would do it in India, he would change it, he would switch. Because the cost of starting a new operation and maintaining the thing is much less. Here, it becomes huge problem. And having said that, the largest employer today, if I'm not wrong, is the government. So I don't think it's our problem, but it's a Singapore problem. A lot of people don't want to because they find it much easier to it. And to change that mindset over here, some people are doing it. But it's very hard. This is where I think your department can assist in big ways.
And have आपने towards the closure आ रही है and I want to understand and let's say for viewers to also understand you as a person that who is that one person who inspires you the most?
Inspires. Within the family?
It could be anyone. You can pick family, outside family. It could be a character outside anyone.
Yeah. I think the person who has sort of molded me most, I would say, is my father.
Okay.
I think he's taught me a lot of the business, the soft side of the business, which we continue to have, which is very difficult to be taught if I work anywhere else. So I think he has become very significant in my, and he trusts me a lot. And because he trusts me, it is very important for me, and even at the age of 90, to continue to keep him engaged in the business. He comes to work every day at 8:30 with me, and he leaves whenever I want to leave. So I keep telling him, go back, okay. So I keep telling the next generation basically to engage. Even though you know the result, but ask. So because they have certain insights, and he has been quite instrumental in my shaping. And then
I should say, though he's not on camera, but at this age, while apne Ship Moiz Bhai no segment pati gayo, but he's still patiently sitting and going through this. I mean, he could have easily taken a break, gone back, but I can see that in real time. Bhai camera par nathi capture theiru, but that shows up. Last question, Shriza Bhai, આજનો કે હવે આપનો આપણે ઘણા બધા tidbits and advices share કીધા, but to sum it up, people, the dynamic people are watching this podcast when this will get released. Upcoming entrepreneurs છે, with જે લોકો હવે બિઝનેસ સ્વિચ કરવા માંગે છે, લોકો છે જે સ્મોલ બિઝનેસ છે હવે મોટું કરવા માંગે છે, બિઝનેસ ટ્રેડર્સ છે જે હવે મેન્યુફેક્ચરર્સ બનવા માંગે છે, બટ કંઈ એક એવું કોમન થ્રેડ છે જે આપને એવું લાગે છે કે સગલા વાસ્તે એપ્લિકેબલ છે when it comes to business?
I think to make a generalization that like that is probably a shortcoming in itself. But I think like we discussed, I think certain values are quite important in business, that those values need to be preserved. For example, when you venture into a new business, I think one of the things we touched on is what is the cost of doing that business, whether you can withstand the loss of that business. Apna waste ganu important है, because a lot of time we take money on curtain and we borrow and then we take, whether we can pay back, and that becomes in itself a problem, because when we take curtain, a lot of times we don't understand the opportunity costs on the farm, that it does not translate. Mullah's dua is there, people don't appreciate that, and then mullah is giving money, they don't appreciate that, because basically it's free money. Whatever you say, I mean, if you go to the bank, you're finished. In 6 months, you can't do it, you're bled to death. You know, that. So it's these are the things that they need to understand. No doubt, even though the concept of paying back on time, simple things, all these values are very important. To cash flow management, simple. Not to do too much business on credit. Very simple things, but they don't seem to understand the okay, my entire business on credit. I said, hello boss, something goes wrong with the economy, what are you going to do?
અને એનામાં જે જે મેં મારા લિમિટેડ એક્સપિરિયન્સથી સુનું છે એ લોકો કહે છે કે બટ આ માર્કેટમાં તો ધંધો અમર થઈ સાહેબ, I can't help it.
No such thing, sir. There's no such thing.
બરાબર,
Cash is king.
correct.
Give a discount and tell him, I'll give you 20% discount, give me the cash.
People have this justification, I would say, that it's the only way I can enter into the market. Do you agree?
Sorry, I do not agree. There's no such thing.
બરાબર,
It's how you position the product and how you price it.
બરાબર,
That those are the only things that matter.
બરાબર,
Very simple. Business is very simple. It's not a rocket science.
બરાબર,
You need to price it properly, and you need to do this thing.
બરાબર.
You want to expand your business after you have created your base and you want to give the credit, by all means. In the initial stage, you can't. If you say you have to do that, then you're in the wrong business in the wrong town.
બરાબર. અને પિટફોલ એમાં એમ છે કે મેં માલ કેશમાં લઈ રહ્યો છું, બટ આગળ ક્રેડિટમાં આપે છે ને, હાઉ ડઝ ઇટ ઇવન ધીસ ઇક્વેશન ઇટ સેલ્ફ ઇઝ ફ્લોડ ધ મોમેન્ટ યુ રાઇટ ઇટ.
Nasab, you've forgotten one big point in that. Okay, no doubt you're buying on cash, no doubt you're selling on credit. Because of the flow of the cargo, another 2 months is lost. Transportation is so much disruption today. You don't know when you're going to get your goods. You don't know when you're going to get paid. the market will change, you can't.
Correct.
We are very cautious on that. Even though we are selling on cash, when we see that the market is going down, immediately I stop. I tell them don't sell because your buyer is losing. If the buyer loses, you lose. Better don't sell.
That.
Why? And buyer has a bad taste. The buyer makes money, he'll come back to you. Buyer loses, every time I'm buying from you, I'm losing money. No use. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important. These very basic. Like like the farmer. The farmer needs to make money. The village heads needs to make money. So now we've started this clove leaf oil. So so it's off-season thing. All the leaves that have fallen on the ground, I tell them to pick and sell to them. So all the ladies are doing it. Additional income for the family.
And I forgot asking, I think, अच्छा of बात getting farmers ने कि business में inflation है okay, जे core was to make money and doing it, everything is fine. So then सुकान आपना business ना पे introduce कि दो concept of giving back, जो आपने share की तो starting that providing education, providing kids education, trainings, all of that was not required. Ultimately, it was not the need of the business. Indeed, it was happening otherwise also. So, importance of giving back so result business में can fulfill.
Let me take you back to what we've just said. When my son went around, he came back and said, they're more Nomanbhoy than we are. So we have created that entire ecosystem of all of them being part of the business. And they like to sell to us. Whether the market is up, market is down, they keep selling to us. We have created a platform for them to deliver the cargo to us. So it's a win-win situation. For example, it's cutthroat competition. How do you compete? Especially for people like us who, there's, after all, X amount of dollars. So we can easily go back to the farmers. They're all part of the system. Gentlemen, we sit down around the fireplace. This is the problem. Okay, boss, like this, we do. So it works. It creates a whole new system. So it's a win-win situation. You cannot lose. More and more people are involved in your decision making on a different level, or at least they seem to know that you're involved in the decision making. It always is a plus. It's never a minus. Because they're all part of the main company, directly or indirectly. For example, you have a small football tournament in a village. They have no shoes, they have no football boots. And the children play. Do you know how much pleasure there is in that? It's just like amazing, it's like so much fun just to see them. What is life after all? Profit is profit. But finally, we have to invest in people.
Okay, I think aim to we can go hours and hours. We can pull minor threads, but of course you have to time bound it. Otherwise, the listeners will say that okay, it's too long for me to consume. It becomes too static. So, it was pleasure talking to you. घना बदा aspects समझ आपे share किया घना बदा nuances share किया became generational business ने effectively हमना तक अपनी business में continuation आगे के अंत से अने जे आपे सगला pointer share किया I'm sure सगला ने सुनने घनी मजा उसे अने on behalf of Fidara Tijarat Rabia I thank you for being a part of this podcast. I thank Moiz Bhai, your Abba, to be a part of this podcast. And your logo sunse, they'll really appreciate every word which has been spoken to you guys on this podcast.
Thank you for inviting us to be part of such a momentous event, in the sense that I think it's very important. I think our community mein ghana hai. We are maybe one of the smaller ones, but there are a lot of success stories which a lot of people can share. Inshallah.
We are on the this marks the 28th podcast. 28 goes up and a long way to go.
Yeah, thank you.
Long
Thank you.